I'm Jack Rickman, and I became a teacher so I could make better citizens for our country. And so that's what I do as a junior ROTC instructor.
My name is Becky Wiegand, and I became a teacher because I had a lot of really bad math teachers when I was in high school and in college. And I decided I wanted to do something about that. So I decided to become a math teacher so I could hopefully be one of the good ones.
My name is Stuart Berkowitz. I became a teacher because I really wanted to help young people. As a stopgap job, I ended up subbing in the Denver area and really enjoyed it. It paid a lot less than what I was used to earning.
Sure. My name is Mr. Enrique Reyes. I've been teaching for 3 years now. I wanted to start teaching because I felt like it was a job that I really had planned for, and it was really self-fulfilling for me to be able to give back to students that came from the same kind of situations that I came from. And I wanted to ensure that the kind of help and support that I got when I was in school, I could end up giving down to the next generation.
I think I had a unique experience in high school that went from having an amazing time to having a miserable time and back and forth. And I think it gives me a good perspective from both ends of the spectrum, where I feel like I can relate to people that are experiencing the worst and best of high school and relating to them. And I truly love learning, so I think being around learning is exciting to me, and it's a social atmosphere.
And what's your other job?
I'm a waitress at Texican Cafe.
That's like physically demanding, right?
Yes, very. I'm exhausted by the end of a shift, yeah. It's not fun.
I'm a lawyer.
Like what kind of cases do you do?
So right now I'm mostly working on civil litigation, which just means you sue somebody else for money, and usually my work is immigration law, but right now I'm focused on civil litigation. I think the reason why I got into law was because I saw a lot of migrants being taken advantage of by attorneys, including my own family. So I decided to get into the law myself. I just feel like it's the most powerful degree. There's no area or field that you can work in which doesn't need an attorney. And there are so many opportunities to help people out. Attorneys get a bad rap, but there's so many attorneys out there who are just busting their butts for people, oftentimes working a lot of hours for free. And I think that's the rewarding part of it.
I write curriculum and I lead geology trips in the summers. I do this almost every, I do this every summer. I've done it ever since I started teaching. And it's a side job that I do based like about 2 to 3 weeks through the summer in order to basically make, just have enough cash to, if I want to do anything that summer, be able to pay for that, or at least set myself up a little to have it easier during the year between paychecks.
I was a CrossFit coach, and I worked 4 times a week. I would work extra, and I would work like from after school until about 8:30 at night. I would coach different classes. And so I did that more or less because I enjoy doing that, and it did help supplement some income. It did give me a little extra income that I could, use to pay bills and to live. So that's kind of what I did. And here in Austin, I just moved here. So, and I'm working out at CrossFit Sochak, and so I'm talking to them, and I may end up getting a second job again with them just so that I can afford to live, comfortably. I have a daughter that's in college. That's where most of my money is going right now. So I'm trying to afford and help her get through school. She's a junior in college this year, and she wants to get a master's degree, so it's going to take me a little time, and I'm going to have to probably make maybe a few more dollars to try to help her get through school.
I'm a licensed massage therapist. Shortly after I moved to Austin, so besides subbing, I went to work full-time for Dell, and so I didn't sub while that was going on. And I went by the Austin School of Massage. I had driven by it a few times. I said, I'm going to go in and see what's up.
So my schedule is typically go to school, work from 8:30 to 4:30, get home around 5, hang out, exercise, eat, and then go to a coffee shop from like 6:30 to 9:30 and work on cases, and then head back home and maybe get ready for school the next day, or just take it easy.
My schedule, I basically, every school week, I basically wake up around 6 a.m., shower, get to school about between 7:15 and 7:30, and then I usually don't get home till about 6:30. Some nights I don't do any work and I kind of just focus on like myself and my chores and having fun. Other nights, I get home, I eat, and then I get right back to lesson planning about 8:30, and I work until I end up falling asleep. So sometimes I just have to go home and keep working.
I kind of set my own schedule. So during the week, I work Monday evenings from 5:30-ish until 10, and then Wednesdays from 5:30 to 10, and then Fridays from 5:30 to 10, and then Saturdays I work from usually 9 until about 4:30, same thing on Sundays.
I see my clients. I have a mobile service, so because I have a massage table, most massage tables will fold up and you put it in a carrying case so you can transport it as long as you have a big enough car. And I have a Subaru Forester, so the hatch opens and it fits back there nicely. I have to put the back seats down. But anyway, so I go to see my clients, and I do that evenings, weekends, and during school breaks. I don't do it as much as I could. Like I have to turn down some appointments or some referrals from my existing clients because I don't want to be up too late or work too many hours so that I'm burned out, so I can give my students the best that I have, although sometimes I am pretty tired, but I still like suck it up and do the best I can.
Feel like you can perform your best at both of them all the time?
No, not even close. The thing about working a second job is that my weekends, the time that I would be able to dedicate to things like planning or grading, I can't do that on the weekends because I'm working. So I have to try my best to get everything done here. And I don't really have the time to like plan innovative lessons and those kinds of things because that type of stuff takes extra time. So I find it really, really frustrating. And then on the flip side, because I do work here, my job at Texican, I'm late sometimes because I get held up or kids hold me up or whatnot. And then they'll ask me if I can pick up shifts during the week. Like on a Thursday night, I'd be like, nope, sorry, I've got this or that planned for this specific job. So it's not very easy to hold down two jobs.
I think both teaching and being a lawyer are very emotionally demanding jobs because you have lives on the line. If I'm a bad teacher, my students are going to suffer for it, not just me. If I'm a bad attorney, somebody could lose their immigration status here or could lose their money that they deserve. So it's emotionally demanding. So I think in that way, it can really stack up. If it's a heavy week when it comes to school and a heavy week when it comes to cases, it's hard to kind of manage it at times. And it can be overwhelming, but most of my weeks are typically manageable.
Do you have a family?
Yes, I do.
How do you balance your work and your family?
I'm lucky enough that my wife is extremely helpful. She stepped up and she takes care of our little girl in the evenings when when I have to be a Texican. So on Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights she bathes Kenzie, puts her to bed, those kinds of things. And Saturdays and Sundays she makes sure that she doesn't have to work so she can be with Kenzie. But if I didn't have her, I wouldn't be able to work a second job. So.
I do. My family is in Tennessee right now, so I'm here kind of by myself and in an apartment right now by myself, and so it's kind of nice. My kids are grown, and I'm currently divorced, so I'm just kind of on my own right now, which is fine, and I can afford everything right now.
Do your job like your social life or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I always feel like I'm having to make a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes that means sacrificing lunch in order to help a kid out during lunchtime, because I'm so busy with coming up with taking care of all my teacher duties, because sometimes we have to play both like teacher and parent. I forget essential things, like I forget to eat. Like I said, I have to give up my nights and my weekends in order to put in grades and to plan lessons and to make sure I'm ready for the next day, because there's simply not enough hours during the school day in order to like get that stuff done. So it does have to come out of your own personal time at home.
Time with my family. I hate the fact that I can't put my baby to bed on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. I don't like the fact that on Saturdays and Sundays I can't, go to church, or, take Mackenzie to the park or whatever, because by the time I'm done with an 8.5-hour shift, all I want to do is come home and rest. And then by the time that's done, I've got to start planning for the rest of the week, and it's a vicious cycle. It's very frustrating.
How do you jobs like your social life or anything?
Oh yeah, social life for sure. Fortunately, I'm around a few friends that are also working, probably 60, 70, 80 hours a week as well. So it's become kind of usual for us. We definitely take advantage of weekends to hang out, or we might even work together at times. So you definitely sacrifice a lot of TV time, game time, social time, but in the end, I think it's worth it.
Do you live in Austin?
I live in the Hayes County part of Manchac because it would be too expensive to live in Austin.
I do.
Do you think that you'll always be able to afford to live in Austin?
If I'm by myself, yes. If I have a family, probably not. Right now, I live with a roommate and we split the cost of a 2-bedroom apartment. So having a family, obviously I wouldn't be able to do that. And it would be tough. So maybe I know that a lot of the families who have teachers that work here, they have to live in cities around Austin. They can't afford to live inside the city limits.
Do you live in Austin?
Yes, I live pretty close to the school. I wanted to live close to the school. I knew that would cut costs elsewhere, but it's super expensive.
Do you think you'll always be able to afford it?
I think I will, because I don't have any plans as of now to like start a family or anything like that. I honestly don't see how I could do this job and have a family at the same time, though I guess like with 2 incomes it's a lot easier to manage housing and all that stuff, but as like a single income person, I don't see how we could get how adding family members would like benefit me at all. And I don't think teachers are ever going to get paid less, because I think that literally there'd be an uproar. It's a very tense subject. Teacher pay is an extremely tense subject. No one's doing anything about it, but like everyone knows that teaching is a profession that's in danger.
Do you think you'll always be able to afford to live in Austin?
Do you think I'll always be able to afford to live in Austin?
Yeah, because of inflation.
Not at the rate it's going, no. My wife and I were actually talking about possibly moving to the Buda area, Buda-Kyle area, although that area is getting really expensive too. I used to live in Round Rock for a while. I lived in Round Rock because it was less expensive to live up there, and now that's not even true. But unless they start doing something for the teachers that teach in this district, and I'm talking about the teachers with families. I mean, if you're single and you have your basic expenses, I'd be willing to bet you could probably make it by on a teacher's salary. But for a teacher with a family, and a family that doesn't have a second income equal to mine, my wife works as a veterinary receptionist, living in Austin is almost a pipe dream. Actually, my wife and I are talking about when our lease is up, because our lease is up in May, we're going to get a roommate. So I don't even have the luxury of living by myself with my wife and my daughter if I want to live in this city. We're going to find somebody that we trust, that we like, and we're going to get a roommate, and that'll help take care of some of our expenses so that we're not broke all the time, and hopefully I can quit working at Texican, because it's exhausting and it puts a lot of strain on us.
Being a teacher, have you ever been like behind on a bill or ever had to borrow money?
I'm pretty responsible when it comes to those things, and so no, I haven't really been behind too much. I try to keep up, but I am living pretty much paycheck to paycheck. Again, with my daughter being in school, and that's pretty expensive, so I am kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now.
What do you do paycheck to paycheck?
So one of the great and not great things about being a teacher is that we get paid on the first, and then we get paid again the next first. So we get paid once a month. So basically the way it works out is I got paid today, for example, and my paycheck will be gone Saturday because all of my paycheck goes to bills. I'll pay my daughter's daycare and rent, my car payment, insurance. My wife's paycheck goes ahead and takes care of the extra stuff, electricity, etc. And then I have nothing from that paycheck left, nothing. If my wife didn't work, honestly, we wouldn't be able to live. So then I work my job at Texican, I make tips. So, I come home every night with tips. And that's the money that we use for groceries, gas, buying Kenzie new clothes, those kinds of things. And the only way I can make it work is to pay all of our major bills out of my paycheck. And then work a second job for the incidentals that come up during the month. If my tire goes flat, that's tip money. If, I don't know, if Kenzie decides that she wants to go to the movies, that's tip money. I don't have any actual money to take care of my family's daily expenses from my job here. So, yeah.
Have you ever had to borrow money or be late on a bill or anything?
All the time. All the time. I'm lucky enough, I bank with A+ Federal Credit Union, and I've been banking with them long enough, and this is terrible, but they allow me to overdraft my account. So if I don't have enough money to pay bills, I go ahead and I pay them, and my account sits in the negative for however long, and then when I'm able to, I put the money back. I'm almost always behind on bills. It's just unfortunately the way it is. If I want to live in Austin, work as a teacher, and have a daughter, my little girl who's 3, it's just unfortunately the reality that we face.
Between teaching and my massage therapy business, I make enough money to where I still live pretty frugally, so I don't have the latest, my car's 8 years old, even though it runs pretty well and all that stuff, and I don't have like the latest TV, or I have an iPhone, but my previous phone was like 7 years old or 8 years old before I upgraded, so I still have to kind of skimp.
Late on a bill or borrow money?
There's some months where I do have to end up doing that, borrowing money, especially from my parents. Let's say I think at the end of every month I end up basically with like $150 maybe left in my bank account in the week leading up to getting paid again. And even though I'm pretty fiscally responsible, I keep savings and all that stuff, I still have a pretty high credit card debt right now, and I'm always up against the wall at the end of the month waiting for the next paycheck to really drop. I haven't bought groceries yet because I'm kind of waiting to get paid for that first.
Payment, I think starting out as a first-year teacher, I don't necessarily take issue with where I start at, because there's so many benefits to teaching that aren't financial in terms of relationships you receive, in terms of the social atmosphere that you have with other teachers, and my bosses are better here than any other job I've ever had, and that part's good. I'm okay with where it starts, but the fact that every year that you are a teacher, you have less financial stability because inflation is rising at a higher rate than our salaries are. And that's the sad part, for a teacher that has been here for, 30 years, 40 years, somebody that commits their whole life to serving students, they should at least not lose purchasing power. When your salary rises at a rate lower than inflation, every single year, your ability to buy things for yourself and support yourself financially, or your family, your loved ones, whoever it might be, it's lower and lower. And that's the sad part about teaching. At the very least, I would love to see a salary structure that matches inflation over time. Not so that, there are huge benefits to staying in the education field, because there are benefits outside of the payment, but you shouldn't be punished for teaching over a long period of time.
I keep teaching because I love helping young people to learn, not, as I said before, not just the curriculum, but giving them life skills for making their way in the world.
Oh, the kids. Ask any teacher why they became a teacher, and they'll tell you it's for their students. My kids are sweet and kind and funny, and they make me laugh, and I learn from them the same as they learn from me. And I look forward to seeing them every day. Matter of fact, it was really funny because during Thanksgiving break, I started wondering about some of them. Like, oh, I wonder, what they're doing, or, how their Thanksgiving break is going, or if they're happy or whatnot. And, I do this because I love teaching children. I do. I love teaching teenagers. I love being a math teacher. I love being that teacher that tells kids, oh, Miss Legal, I didn't get math until I had you. Now I kind of get it. That's the entire reason I became a teacher. And it's the reason that I come back and continue teaching every single year, because there's very few careers that are as rewarding as this one. Not financially rewarding, but as people might say, the fringe benefits definitely make a difference.
Did you ever see yourself not being a teacher?
Yes. I went back to college a couple years back to get a degree in educational administration because of the money. I never wanted to leave the classroom, but APs and principals get paid more. And I am actively trying to seek a job as an administrator, as an assistant principal who's a principal, which is sad because it's going to take me out of the classroom in an environment that I love and an environment that I'm really good at. Like, I'm a good teacher, and my kids tell me all the time, Ms. Ligo, you're a fantastic math teacher, but I can't afford to stay in the classroom. I want to stay in education because that's my chosen field, but no, I don't really foresee myself staying in the classroom too much longer because I need to make more money, and the best way to do that, at least in the educational field, is to get out of the classroom and either work as an administrator or as like an instructional coach or something like that.
So if you were to do that, would you have to move your family and everything?
Possibly. It depends on kind of where I can find a job. Austin is a very competitive job market for the education field outside of being a teacher. I mean, it's competitive to become a teacher here, but if you want to do a job in education outside of being a teacher, it's really, really competitive. So after a certain point, if I can't find one of those jobs here, I might have to relocate my family to Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, or maybe even a smaller city like Abilene or something like that, just so I can get my foot in the door and get a little bit of experience. And then eventually maybe I could come back to Austin, because this is ultimately where I want to raise my daughter. This is a fantastic place to live. My wife was born and raised here, and this is where we want to raise our child. But we'll just have to kind of see, I apply, and sometimes I get interviews, sometimes I don't, and thus far I haven't had quite any luck getting my foot in the door, but eventually I will.
For you, do you ever think it will change?
The money thing, the money issue for teachers? Unfortunately, no, I don't. I think teaching is one of those professions that people take for granted. They assume that there's always going to be teachers out there. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, those that can't do, teach. That basically means that people believe that if you fail at other professions, then, oh, it's fine, I'll just become a teacher. And because there is this thought in people's heads that teachers are expendable, they don't feel the need to pay us what we're worth. They don't feel the need to make sure that we make a living wage. I mean, my take-home pay for my paycheck is only about $800 more, about $900 more a month than my wife's take-home paycheck. My wife does not have a college degree, and she earns $14.25 an hour working as a veterinary receptionist. That right there, I mean, mind you, my benefits come out of my paycheck first, but still, we're ridiculously underpaid. And people don't feel the need to, I mean, everybody will tell you, oh yeah, we should pay your teachers better. But the problem is the higher ups, the politicians, the people that make policy, particularly in Texas, they consider teachers expendable. And because they consider teachers expendable, they're not going to do anything about fixing our wage issues until Texas is able to be a unionized state. That's a completely different issue, but unfortunately in Texas is a right-to-work state. The unions don't really have any power. So we don't have the ability to go to an administration and say, we strike unless you give us what we need. Places like New Hampshire, the teachers there get paid ridiculously well, but that's because they're a unionized state and their union is able to fight for what they need, but Texas doesn't have that luxury.
So you don't continue teaching?
Teaching is fun. I think when I first started out as a teacher, I didn't know how long I was going to teach. It was probably going to be a year, maybe two. And I was going to try to learn from other teachers how they handle their classroom so that eventually I could get into education policy, trying to make laws that relate to education. But you meet a few students, and luckily I'm a part of a program where I get to teach students year after year, sometimes for even 4 years in a row eventually. And I think the idea of like leaving in the middle of that journey is kind of scary to me, because you develop those relationships, but at some point, you know, that might happen, or who knows, I might end up teaching here for a long, long time.
No, I kind of like what I'm doing. I like this job, and I really like it here at this high school, and I like the cadets here a lot. So I think it's gonna work out good being here.
Why do you keep teaching?
Because I do feel like I make a difference, and I do feel like I help the cadets to become good citizens. So that's why I do it.
Change.
I think I'll end up changing careers at some point. I think I'll always stay in education, and I think I'll always want to come back to teaching. But being a classroom teacher forever is like, unless you have a second income that is better than yours, usually by way of a spouse, there's just eventually you do get tired of the grind, because the pay never justifies it, and that's why you usually see a lot of your favorite teachers end up becoming principals and administrators and academy coordinators, because those jobs pay better, and you don't want to be a teacher forever because of the pay.
Why did you keep teaching?
I've kept teaching because I enjoy it. I don't think I ever want to be an administrator. I don't think I ever want to be a principal. I enjoy being in the classroom. Being in the classroom is the easiest part of my job. Teaching is the easiest part of my job. But as a teacher, there's so many other parts of the job than just making the lessons and the curriculum. We've created a system that incentivizes parents to release responsibility to the school, and not even just responsibilities that are important like education, but they've released so many other responsibilities to us, including if your kid gets pregnant, they're not going to tell you first, they're going to tell us. If your kid has a problem with other people at school, they're not going to tell their parents first, they're going to tell us. And then behavior becomes our problem, attendance becomes our problem, even though parents are the ones that send their kids to school, and they get those reminders, they get those phone calls when their kid gets marked absent in a class. We're still expected to check up on the parents saying, hey, have you received this call, because we haven't seen your kid in a while. And so, like, basically we are a secondary parent.
I feel like I'm valued by the parents. I feel like I'm valued by my students. I definitely feel like I'm valued by the people in education. Absolutely, no question. And the people that need education, like parents whose kids go to school. I do not feel valued by the politicians, Democrat, Republican alike. I don't feel valued by them, because one side will give you a whole lot of, oh yes, we need to fix this, but they don't. And the other side that's actually in power has the ability to fix it, and they don't. It's been ruled multiple times in the Texas Supreme Court that Texas school finance is completely illegal. The way that they finance schools in the state has been ruled illegal by a court, but they still do nothing about it. They do nothing about it. And part of the reason that teachers in Texas are paid so poorly is because there is not a system in place here in the state of Texas that allows them to raise our salaries, because we're completely salaried. I mean, most of the money comes from taxpayers. And in a school like Austin, that's a very large school, a very large district, we have to pay a large chunk of the money we get from our personal taxes out to smaller districts that don't make as much money. It's called the Robin Hood program. And unfortunately, while that program is in place and until they figure out a different way to finance schools in Texas, no, it's not going to change, because the money just doesn't add up. It takes so much money to run a district, and teacher salaries are a really huge expense, and until they figure out a better way to funnel money into that system, we've hit a ceiling. And unfortunately, I mean, they'll give us a small pay raise here and there, but it'll never be what it needs to be to pay us what we need until the politicians here in Austin, the people that run the state, decide to change the way that they're doing things.
Valued?
I feel like my job is valued because without it, the entire foundation of our country would crumble. But it's the same as looking at the brick on the bottom. No one ever notices the brick at the bottom of a building, but that's the first brick that's there and that provides the stability for the rest of the building to sit on top of. You kind of forget about it, but it's essential for it to be there. The only way that our job isn't valued is obviously the respect that we get out of it. Parents feel like they know more than teachers in a lot of different circumstances, and maybe they do. Politicians feel like they know more about education, and in a lot of cases they don't. And then, the most disrespectful thing obviously is pay. You can't say that people value our jobs if they don't show that value in dollar signs. There should be no reason that a teacher gets paid right at the poverty line when we know that poverty increases stress, and this is the most stressful job in America. The classroom teacher is the most stressful job in America.